how to pass your ACCA AFM exam, talking about today exam technique, free resources, and how to get you 50 plus. Well, you are in the right company because I have Andrew with me today, a top tutor who's going to walk and talk us through all the elements that he recommends for his students. But before we get kicked off, Andrew, feel free to introduce yourself, my friend.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me. So I'm Andrew Moore. I'm an AFM expert tutor, and I've been helping people to pass AFM for over a decade, thousands of students along the way. So I absolutely love this subject, and I really want to help those people just get over the line, especially when it's one of your last exams. That satisfaction when those people finally get the exam done, send you that message, I've qualified, and it's the best feeling ever. So everyone I can help, the more the better.
Fantastic. Well, I think let's get straight into it because if you're an ACCA student, you love a free resource because you're going, right, what should I use? How do I find the right ones? Kick us off, Andrew. What do you recommend for your students that they, 100% should be checking out before their AFM exam?
Yep, it's a great question, and actually probably one that people don't ask enough. So yeah, there are a lot of things out there that are so useful that ACCA published for free, which is amazing, and other providers as well. The number one thing is the practice platform. Again, anyone who's
Hmm.
got to this level should be pretty familiar with ACCA's practice platform. ACCA published a new mock each quarter, so you can go and do that. They then do debrief videos on YouTube. I often record the AFM ones, so you may see me on YouTube doing the AFM debriefs. So they're really good just to get practicing in terms of using the software. Now, that's something that often, again, students aren't particularly comfortable with. So very
Mm.
important to use that. And also just getting used to the timings and the exam format. So the practice platform is amazing, not only for the mocks, though, there are also loads of past exams and
Hmm.
specimen exams practice papers. So if you've done most of the questions on the practice platform, you're going to be super well prepared for AFM. And again, they're all free. So there's a starter. Again, do as many of those as you can in the practice
Yeah.
platform, and that's superb.
Okay.
They
Fantastic.
also they also publish a lot of the examiner reports, as you know,
Hmm.
which are brilliant as well. So examiners giving their insight into what students do well at, what they need to improve on as well. So those sorts of things are again really nice to see a little bit of the examiner mindset. And okay, I need to work on that. Oh, there's a little hint. Maybe they'll test that a bit more because
Mm.
students haven't done too well at it. So examiner reports are brilliant as well. ACCA also do free webinars. Again, I often host those. Got one coming up quite soon. And so they do all these sorts of webinars where you can just join, log on, and I'll talk through a bit like this. I'll go through some of my tips, maybe show an example question as to what people should and shouldn't do with questions and all these sorts of bits. So again, loads of free resources out there, which are absolutely amazing. And again, you'll probably, from your ACCA experiences, I'm sure you've come across lots of great free resources as well.
Yeah, the only other one to add to that would be I know some of them are really, really detailed, but what about the technical articles? I always find that if I've gone through one topic, I kind of get it, but then I just want to hear a different perspective. Would you recommend students having a look at those? I know some of them can be a bit long, but what would you say to your students about them?
Yeah, technical articles can be great. Again, it's a balance in AFM between having just the right amount of knowledge and not having too much. So
Mm.
sometimes the technical articles will go into really detailed explanations of things to help that further understanding. Probably, well, definitely way more than you'd ever need in the exam. But yeah, if you're the sort of person who thrives on knowledge and really understanding the in-depth stuff, then technical articles can be great as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, I think we need to rattle on to exam technique now, but let's get it on record as well. What is the give or take pass rate for the AFM exam for a student who is watching this video? It could be the first thing that they look about the exam.
Yeah, it's a popular question as well. So it's around about 45% is the global pass rate for AFM. So fairly consistent. Obviously, it jumps around a little bit from sitting to sitting, but it's usually sort of just below that 50% mark. And yeah, technique is the key thing to get those people over the line. And again, forget about the technical knowledge a lot of the time. If your technique's good, you stand such a good chance of passing this exam. So yeah, my big thing to students is just don't focus too much on your technical knowledge and understanding the in-depth bits of that. If your technique's bad and you don't get a chance to write all that stuff, well, what's the point in learning it? If you're not going
Mm.
to have enough time to actually write it down, there was no point you even studying that stuff. So technique is almost where people need to start and get that right, and you're going to be in a really, really good position. And as with a lot of these exams, time management is the number one risk that
Mm.
students face when they're doing these exams. it sounds like such a long time, doesn't it? 3 hours, 15 minutes.
Hmm.
You can do all sorts in that. You can get most of the way across the UK in that time. You could run a marathon. You can do all sorts of things in that time. But it goes so fast. It just goes so quickly. So you just need to practice questions to time and really, really work on that. One of my big tips around the exam technique is just getting the first 5 minutes right. So I'm really about the first 5 minutes of the exam. And again, James, you'll know from experience, students go into these exams nervous, anxious,
Hmm.
excited, whatever you want to call it. And having the first 5 minutes mapped out just really helps you to calm down, relax, and get a load of easy marks. So my approach for AFM is to start with a 50 mark question. And
Hmm.
in those first 5 minutes, get all the headings and report format set up. So get your report format done, get all your structure in place, and then you've earned a load of communication marks within 5 minutes of sitting down, which is amazing. And then you can just go, okay, I've got some marks. Now I can start the exam and read the other bits. So things like that, and again, just practicing as many questions as you can to time really, really help with that technique.
Fantastic. I was going to ask as to what order would you do the questions in on there, but I assume it's going to be the big one first of all. And I think also, if I'm putting myself in the student's perspective, it started the exam. I've got the most amount of energy. Is that what you sort of advise to your students?
Yeah, it's a question I get a lot. What order to do it in? I mean, ultimately, you have to answer all three questions in AFM anyway. So
Yeah.
to some extent, it doesn't matter too much. I asked the examiner this at a recent conference and said, "Oh, what order will you do it in?" And the examining team said they would do the big one first. So sort
Hmm.
of reiterating that message. But like you said, for me, it's about the getting the big one out of the way. It's get that 50 marks, and again, because you can get that report format done, which you don't need to do in the shorter questions in the first few minutes. That's just a really nice, almost like muscle memory task that you can just do at the
Mm.
beginning just to pick up some marks at the start. So I like it from that perspective as well. And then you've got the 225 markers to finish, so there's less of a burden. The flip side is you do the shorter questions first, pick up those marks, which sometimes are a bit easier, but that 50 mark question is looming over you. I'd find just that pressure to get through all that, and a lot of stuff to read in that as well, which you don't have in the 25 markers, which, as you said, when you're tired is going to be much harder. So my approach is always 50 marker when you're fresh, full of excitement and energy, get that done. And then you can, as long as you leave enough time to do the 25 markers, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. It's one of those things. If you've got a 50 marker looming on you, you kind of go, "Oh my word, I don't fancy that." But
Yeah.
we're going to have to talk about the two key elements of AFM when it comes to the exam: calculations and the narrative, what you're writing. I mean, I think about it that I've seen scripts in the past where students just write a full page and they kind of expect me to pick out, "Oh, that was a decent point, that was a decent point." Whereas we know from exam technique that if you've got, say, let's say, for example, a 6 mark question to talk or explain about a point or your calculation, what you want to see is one nice paragraph, leave me a gap, another nice paragraph, leave me a gap, and then another nice paragraph at the end. What sort of springs to mind with like the calculations, showing workings, the narrative that you look for in a very nice script that you get to mark, Andrew?
Yeah, it's a great point, and again, it's an underestimated skill this in exams. You know from marking these markers have hundreds of scripts to mark, and you know within what a few seconds would you say
Mm.
whether you want the student to pass or not. Like it appears on the screen, it looks beautiful, it's nicely laid out, the calculations are easy to follow. I want you to pass immediately. So again, get the markers on side, and by laying it out nicely, yeah, you're gonna really do that and pick up those marks. In terms of calculations, the luxury of AFM is the markers can see your workings within the cells. So
Hmm.
again, a lot of the time there's no need to then show, like little workings here or there, but there are certain things that you would want to show as separate workings, clearly labeled. Again, like you said, I've had it before where I'm marking one. You've got all these calcs, almost somewhere completely random. You just see a table. It's like, what's this? And you go, oh,
Yeah.
that was the working for that number earlier. It's like, and you're having to piece it together, and that shouldn't be. You shouldn't expect the markers to have to do that sort of thing. So make it really easy to follow, nicely laid out with spaces, as you said. And then the discussion parts, I'm all about headings and subheadings and breaking it up into little bits. If it's 6 marks and it says the advantages and disadvantages of this method, easy. Advantages, subheading, 3 paragraphs, as you said, with spaces. Disadvantages heading, 3 paragraphs with spaces. And it's just a dream to mark then. You're like, oh, this is great. And I really like getting all those headings and subheadings set up before actually answering the question because then you sort of know, right, I've got to do this. I've got this amount of time. This is what I need to complete. It's almost like filling in a form then, and it
Mm.
becomes much easier if you do that. So, yeah, those little bits and just practicing that and really practicing getting your layout looking good is crucial. The other thing just to touch on in terms of technique in AFM is the calculations don't have to be perfect. So you
Mm.
mentioned about the balance and people often obsess with the numbers and they're perfectionists and I can't move on because I haven't got that number right. It's fine. Just keep swimming, as I always say. Just keep going. If you get stuck, make up a number. There's something called own figure rule,
Yeah.
OFR, where you still get the rest of the marks, even if you made up a number earlier on or even if it's wrong. So don't worry, just keep going, get to the end, and then get onto your discussion. And again, that almost like being a little bit like, never mind, that'll do. Get onto the discussion. That actually goes quite a long way in AFM. So not being too much of a perfectionist.
Yeah, I completely agree. How loads of students have this expectation in their mind that I've got to get the right answer. I've
Yeah.
just got to do it. But hang on a second. If we go on to now some tips to getting 50 or 50 plus, shall we say? Just the basics of making sure you answer 100 marks. If I had a pound for every student that said to me, "Oh, I failed the exam," our first question I ask is, how did it go on the exam day? Did you answer the full paper? And they go, oh, no, I didn't, James. I only answered about 85, 90 marks on it. And one of the things that I find with AFM and with the practice platform, it shows up a student who's had good practice on it because you've got the worksheet, then you've got your calculations, then you've got to go back to the scenario. Well, what do you advise your students when it comes to the practicalities or the exam day pressures on there?
Yeah, so again, it's all about practice, and it's all about just getting used to that. And again, like you said, just the almost logistics of right, I'm going to have that screen up here, this box down here, because in
Mm,
AFM you are in every question there will be calculations and there will be discussion. Really important, and again, the thing that often people don't do, calculations in the spreadsheet and then your discussion part in the word processor. Like don't go writing up big paragraphs in the spreadsheet because it becomes quite hard to mark and also doesn't flow very well. So I'm getting that differentiation. And again, there are communication marks available for that in the professional skills marks as well. So getting that right is absolutely important. And as you said, just doing as many questions as you can and just becoming really good at that. And using the functions as well, because there are
yeah,
loads of functions that work so nicely in AFM. Like again, you can use equals rate now to work out the cost of debt, whereas before you have to work out the IRR and you had to work out two MPVs. Probably when we did exams, James, that was
yeah.
the approach, and it took you 20 minutes, and you had to do all this. Now it's equals rate. You type in four numbers, bang, you got your answer, and like things like that. Knowing those little tricks can be really, really valuable to save time and also just to make it a lot neater as well.
Absolutely spot on. Oh my gosh, the days of going through and line by line by line of calculations. Gosh,
Yeah.
aren't the students lucky now? But I mean, are there any other final nuggets of gold that you could put on record, Andrew, that could help a student get a 50 plus, get them the pass, and could be that next step to qualifying?
There are a couple. Tying in with what we just said, don't do any calculations on a manual calculator. I probably wouldn't even take in a manual calculator anymore into the exam because there are no, if you get it wrong and you just typed a number in, you get zero. The
Hmm.
markers will give you those method marks if you've shown your workings in the spreadsheet. So get used to just using the software. Don't use a manual calculator because it just makes it very, very hard to then earn those marks. Again, that could easily be the difference between a 48 and a 52. If you've
Hmm.
just shown a few workings, you can pick up a few marks along the way, which is great. One of the big things in AFM is about making sure you get onto the discussion parts. Now, that's important for two reasons. Firstly, there are lots of discussion marks in AFM, and if you obsess too much with the calculations, you're not going to get those. But secondly, the discussion parts are where you're going to earn a lot of the professional skills marks. Now, there are 20 professional skills marks across this exam. And if you're throwing those away by not doing the discussion parts properly, you're making it really hard to pass this exam. So don't worry too much about the calculations. Do them, do your best. If you get stuck, make up a number, get something to talk about. Talk about that. You'll still earn the marks. It's fine. People are like, oh, what if I got my MPV wrong and I've said accept when I should have rejected it? It's fine because you still get your follow on marks. You still get those marks. But really important you get onto those discussion parts. And again, that comes with practice. And practicing questions to time is the number one thing to pass AFM.
Absolutely spot on. Well, guys, if you have any questions for myself and Andrew, leave us a comment down below. I've also put Andrew's details down there. Get in touch with him. Feel free to check out his webinars on there. But what any other final things, Andrew, to get on record? Is it maybe just the best of luck message?
Well, definitely the best of luck. My little mantra for all my FM students is just keep swimming. So don't be a perfectionist when you're doing this exam. If you get stuck, there will be bits you can't do probably because it is a tough, tough paper.
Yeah,
Just keep swimming. Almost just go, never mind, have a little chuckle, move on to the next part. And if you do that and you're really positive with this, you'll be absolutely fine. So best of luck.
fantastic. Thank you very much, Andrew. Best of luck with your exam, guys, and we'll see you in another video soon.